football. The first name that I would call is Dan Lanning at Oregon. We saw his reaction to being linked to the Texas A&M job. This is a different level. This is Alabama. So what do you make of that name? What are some of the other hot names that you expect to be linked to this, at least right out of the gate, where people are just dreaming up candidate lists?
Yeah, the first call, or one of the first calls, has to go to Dan Lanning. He was a graduate assistant at at Alabama in 2015. He spent 4 years under Kirby Smart at Georgia before taking the Oregon job, where he has done a very good job in 2 years. He just last summer signed a new contract at Oregon that has a gigantic, I think it's like $20 million maybe, if you want to buy him out at Oregon. But that may be the move. Alabama paying Nick Saban well over $12-13 million. You can put together the money to do that. He is an elite recruiter, an elite motivator, a very good coach, a young coach. He would be obviously at the top of the list. I think Steve Sarkisian probably is as well. He was the offense coordinator at Alabama before he took the Texas job, and he's done a very good job rebuilding that program, going to the college football playoff. I think Kalen DeBoer, who just took Washington to the national championship, somebody who is a potential fit here as well. Mike Norvell, Florida State. He took Florida State to an undefeated regular season. So those are the names I think of first. Dabo Swinney as well, former Alabama player. Not at the same level he's been the last couple of years, but he's won 2 national championships. He beat Alabama in the national championship game. So I don't know, Ryan Day, things. The pressure's on Ryan Day at Ohio State. He'd probably consider it as well. I mean, this is kind of wild. Do you think about the last couple of years? We will have had coaches. We would have had openings at Notre Dame, LSU, USC, Alabama. These are among the 5 biggest jobs in the sport. And so, yes, this is going to create a crazy domino effect for whoever gets this job, because then another really good job is going to be open as well.
Right. It is going to be a sitting head coach somewhere good. And I want to say that the Dabo point is an interesting one. As someone who covered all of those Alabama Clemson games, one of the first stories I wrote on them playing each other repeatedly and Clemson coming up to the level of Alabama, I refer to that period also as dueling dynasties, was whether or not Dabo could be Nick Saban's successor. And that was the question before he started to beat him, before Clemson was just one of those types of programs that was competing for national championships, and he could do it there, and he seemed very happy there. So that's an interesting name for sure. But again, I go to Dan Lanning. It felt like this year, 2 of the big names in the cycle were Dan Lanning, Kalen DeBoer. And there was a lot of speculation in Houston at the championship game around conversations about Jim Harbaugh, right? If Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL, does Michigan go after Kalen DeBoer? What would you do? And I remember talking to someone in the industry who was saying, well, maybe you don't, because maybe Kalen DeBoer is waiting out Alabama. Maybe that's the type of job that he would be interested in. So again, you have coaches that have maybe not been interested in other places, like Dan Lanning, and the way that he shot down connections to the A&M job by saying he has everything that he needs at Oregon and he feels taken care of and believes that they can build and continue to build there. I think everything anyone's ever said about jobs, I think that goes out the window when you have a job like this and you have the opportunity to take over Alabama in the SEC as you head into a world of the 12-team playoff and even bigger SEC and even bigger Big Ten. I just think it changes the calculations, and it's going to be really interesting to see where Alabama goes. And Chris, as you were talking about different candidates, wanted to also talk about the quality of the job, the resources that they've committed to build up that program, where it operates in the NIL space. How do you see the position that person will walk into, even though obviously you've got big shoes to fill and you're going to be the guy after the guy in Nick Saban? What are they positioned for?
Yeah, look, being the guy after the guy is the most unenviable position in sports many times, when you're replacing the legend, when you're replacing John Wooden, that type of stuff, because you're not going to be able to do what the guy before you did. You are not going to be able to live up to the standard that Nick Saban set, no matter who you are, especially in this new era of college sports where Alabama, by the way, Nick Saban ends this here, going his longest stretch without a national championship at Alabama. He had never gone 3 years without winning a title. He has now done that, and now that's the end. And so you're not coming into an Alabama that's coming off of a national championship win. You're coming off an Alabama that was very flawed this year. And so, Nick Saban was perfect for Alabama, and Alabama was perfect for him because they invested at the level that Nick Saban needed to build a Death Star. They proved that they were able to do that. And if you take out that, it's you could make the case Alabama without Nick Saban may or may not be a top 5 job. When you think about LSU winning national championships with many different coaches, when you talk about Ohio State and everything that they have there, there are Georgia. Like, I don't think Kirby Smart's leaving Georgia for this job. Georgia's probably a better job. They just won 2 national titles. So, like, Alabama doesn't have some inherent advantages that other programs do. They had the Nick Saban advantage, and now they don't have that. So I don't think that changes in terms of who's interested in the job other than everybody but Kirby Smart. But it's going to be difficult, maybe impossible, for the next person to live up to the expectations that have been created there.